Treating target spot is problematic. I've seen this disease go from being almost non-detectable to significant defoliation, 60–70% defoliation within a 2-week period of time. So managing this disease is problematic because you have to be on time. That's the first reason. The second reason it's problematic is because we're talking about a disease that begins in the interior of the canopy. And getting a fungicide down at the interior of the canopy can be very difficult. And so if we wait too late to treat for the disease, not only may it have progressed beyond the point where we can treat it, but the foliage that's on top of the disease and getting it where we need to can be difficult, can make the fungicide less effective. The question on target spot, again, that makes it difficult is not, is it important? It is important. The question is, when is it important is more difficult to answer. So timing is absolutely critical for the management of this disease. In Georgia, we typically tell our growers we need to be thinking about protecting against target spots somewhere between the first week of bloom and the third week of bloom. That's our critical window. We tell them that they need to consider protecting their crop through about the 6th week of bloom. So the first through third week of bloom is most critical period, but depending upon when disease comes in, scouting for the disease, watching for disease, up to the 6th week of bloom is critical. I know my colleagues in neighboring states or as far north as Tennessee and those areas, they may see the disease move in later. They may not start protecting their crop until the 3rd or 4th week of bloom. So the exact timing depends upon where you are and when the disease comes in. Whether you should treat for target spot or not depends upon the growth stage. Have you reached bloom yet? What are the environmental conditions, and are you seeing the disease? If you're at that stage, you scout your cotton, there's no disease, you might wait. You might wait till the 3rd week of bloom. But we do have some growers, especially in the heaviest hit area in the southwest corner of the state, where now treating for target spot on their highest yield potential cotton is something they do every year. If you've had target spot in the past, you're likely to have it in the future. The way this disease has developed, the way it's environmentally driven, just because it hasn't been a problem doesn't mean it won't be a problem for you, and doesn't mean you won't make more money by protecting your crop from target spot. And when we start to see the disease, it's only a matter of time before the intensity of the disease also follows you. One of the most important considerations for growers is to convince them that this disease is present than it matters, because they're just not used to have to think about. They think about managing stink bugs, they think about managing worms, they think about managing a lot of other things, weeds, but they're not used to thinking about mid-season having to put a fungicide out for a disease that they're not familiar with. We know some varieties are more resistant than others, but I say this isn't just a disease or a problem of a single variety or a couple of varieties. This is a cotton problem. And that leads us to the use of fungicides. Fungicides, we know absolutely we can keep the leaves on with well-timed applications. We've gone from a few years ago not having any fungicides labeled for foliar disease on cotton to a number of diseases, or number of fungicides now. And so my recommendation to growers is we have to recognize that different modes of action are important. We want to make sure we don't develop resistance to this disease. We're only spraying once, twice, maybe 3 times. So we have to be judicious in what fungicides we use. We need to recognize which ones are most effective, and we have to be willing to look at different modes of action, both for increased efficacy and for the prevent resistance problems to occur. So growers who are thinking about, should I use it or not? I'm going to use it. Those growers should also think, what's the best application strategy to make sure that I don't only get the top of the plant, but the interior of the plant. At the end of the season, that upper 20% of the canopy is still going to be left. Target spot will never defoliate it, but that bottom 80%, that's what we're worried about and how we get the material down there.
Proline goes after diseases in cotton fields, even those under pressure from target spot, to maximize yield potential. Visit the Crop Science website to learn more.